I'm actually quite happy about this transition, about this shift going on with, again, is it pronounced Nase? Nase, however his character is pronounced? When he got introduced and it looked like he was going up against the, like, mascot characters and, like, the gag character Moscow, I was like, okay, things aren't looking good for him. The best option he was going to get in that scenario was the button on Moscow's stomach gets pressed and he has like some badass battle form that's actually quite powerful. But we didn't get that. We actually got Wise back up. Wise being pretty smart and being pretty tactical with his powers. And I'm alright with that as well because, again, it also gives more to. It gives more content to Wise's character as well as like his level of strategy and his level of kind of plays in this. But it also ended up giving Nase's character more, more to kind of like go with his whole moveset and like the essential base content of his character. Because I was thinking like he's just gonna get like washed the second his hypnosis is taken care of, but he's got something backed up. Like he's knows that his style of fighting and his powers is not a outright combat style. So it seems like he had a mech suit prepared. That was actually really smart of him because I mentioned before when you have characters like that who are like their powers and the way that their abilities work are not designed for combat, they're not going to have a more durable body. They're not going to be used to taking damage, and their power doesn't provide an ability that either like strengthens the body or does anything to kind of increase your defense. Whereas Nazi just said, well, fuck that, I'm just getting a mech suit. Pretty smart, if you ask me. I actually thought that was actually really good on his part. Pretty quick and clever for his level of character with both power and resources. It shows that he thought ahead of, like, what happens if I get in a spot where I can't just use hypnosis on somebody? He's got a mech suit. Unfortunately for him, so does Wise, but we'll see how that's all going to go down. Essentially how his illusion work, his hypnosis, he's like making them want to die. They're like strangling themselves. They're like they are pretty much dying, but they like and both dislike it at the same time. It's just like a super mental wrapped up thing of hypnosis that just lets them do essentially whatever you want to do with the people that are under your control. And when Lyra comes out and pretty much asks for Rebecca, she says that like she'd be perfect in a show. I'm curious to what she's gonna do. My belief on Lyra is she's gonna be a magician, and Rebecca will essentially be her assistant. Maybe we'll get like a scene where she's almost sawed in half or something. But Nazi just says, okay, whatever, tells her to act like a dog, and then those two pretty much just exit the scene. Those two are gone. He's gonna go back to dealing with Wise. And Wise has his Arsenal suit essentially just re-equip onto itself, just automatically go onto his body. I think that's actually really cool, because he explains how he wasn't 100% sure of the scenario after they got released from his hypnosis already. So what he did is that he set his Arsenal suit to go on at a specific time, because he realized that it has, like, the ether power that NASA has to do with, like, messing with, I think he said, like, electrical signals and whatnot, like, going on to the brain and whatnot. And that makes sense of why it would affect machines, too, if it's not as outright as, like, messing with your senses kind of hypnosis, but really, like, messing with the electricity and electrical stuff that goes on in your brain. It's very minute of how it works. Like, I don't know the exact measurements. I know it's just, like, super, like, detailed of, like, how the brain works with, like, those electricals. I think it's, like, what are they called? Just electrical signatures of like different ways like the brain works for different things. I'm not a is it neurologist? I don't know. Either way, I'm not in a well-versed guy of that area, but I do know of its existence. But Wise pretty much uses his suit to block off any form of interference from this guy's ether gear. So pretty smart on him. I like the Arsenal suit Mark II. It's slightly different. It's a little bit bulkier. It's got like the cloak design added onto it. The face, like the helmet, looks a little bit different in how like its face is structured. Looks pretty good for Mark II. It's not too different. But it still has a design that you can tell where the original model comes in. I like that. I wonder how many suits he's gonna get, because his whole setup, like a new Mark suit could literally just be like a couple of changes, and I'm guessing we're gonna see what exactly is different with Mark II in the next chapter. So maybe it's just gonna be set in energy efficiency. Maybe it'll have a different weapon system, like maybe like a large scale, more like big, heavy artillery. I think that should be really cool before getting to like a better energy utilization. If you had just, oh yeah, I just needed to make sure I had some bigger guns, some bigger weapons for more serious scenarios. Because in reality, like you can do all the energy saving you want, but you're gonna want to make sure you have an ace in the hole against any of your opponents and whatnot. But while they're going out, they're getting ready to do their work. That's when Nase decides to put on his own helmet, and I like that as well. I thought, again, that was probably one of my favorite parts of the chapter. The stuff with Rebecca, I think, is really interesting and what Mishima is doing. But I was very happy that he decided to have this dude have a little bit extra to his whole, like his whole arsenal. Like, no pun on the character arsenal, but essentially Nase's whole moveset isn't just confined to hypnosis with his ether gear. He's also got this whole Sea Devil mech suit, which is really cool. As well as because it has to do with Nero's empire and their military and whatnot. It's something that has to do, goes along with their forces. You're pretty much getting, oh yeah, this is something that we have in development, whether there's only 1 or there's 10 or whatever. This is the latest model of these other tech, and now you have this sick ass mech suit for him. So we're gonna be getting Arsenal Mark II, Wise in his mech suit versus Nasa in his mech suit. Definitely gonna give it to Wise. I mean, Wise is smarter. We know how OP his ether gear is in like these kind of scenarios, but also I'd be willing to bet his suit is more advanced. I'm fully predicting a way more set for military style of suit for Nase, but way more of an overall kind of improvement for Wise, and as well as like Wise's arsenal suit, as well as the ether gear getting outright upgrades. I don't think he needs overdrive for this. I'd be pretty happy if he just gets that pseudo overdrive where the ether lines start to leave his body, start to kind of float around him and stuff. I'm alright with him getting ether gear, overdrive for his ether gear, but I don't think he has to have it right now, because I do like there is a pseudo state in between ether gear and overdrive that we've seen some characters are at. The only other character that I'd say like for sure should have overdrive is Jin. I don't think Wise has to have it, because the thing about Wise that's different from all the other characters is his arsenal suit is in and of itself a different kind of like weapon and thing that he has for his powers and abilities, and it's not just his ether gear. Like, he can have an ether gear upgrade followed by an arsenal suit upgrade, and then like so on and so forth, and kind of like couple them instead of just being outright upgrades, like full large scale upgrades to one thing or the other. Like, we could have Mark II arsenal suit and just like an upgraded version of his ether gear to like the point again that the ether lines are moving off his body, and still be capable of defeating Nase and the Sea Devil mech suit. I think that's fully possible without having to give him overdrive. If he does get overdrive again, I'm not against it. I would prefer him not to have it so early. Like, if he got overdrive, I would hope it'd be way more of like a later, more crucial part in the arc. The difference between where I'm way more alright with it with Homura and Jin is they were the people who are way more experienced with their ether gears. So I thought that, in my mind, the level of training that they went through would make sense of why they would have it. And out of those two, the one that I would assume would get it first would be Jin, just because Jin was already close. So if Homura has it, then I think Jin should have it. And it would be like if Wise already had it, I would assume Homura and Jin would have it. Where it's like everybody that is further along than so far who we know has overdrive. I think anybody that should be more experienced and further along than them would also have it. In this case, like, we know Shiki has it and Homura has it, so I'd be willing to bet the guy who I would definitely put in between those two characters in both their fighting capability and their skill with their ether gear is Jin. But after that part, we just have some moments with Rebecca, and Lyra's like telling her to strip down. She's gonna like dress her up for her show. She does say that she's not gonna do anything weird to her. I like that so far. So far, Lyra doesn't have any accessory clad to her. She's not like anything suspicious as one of the oceans. Like Natsei is definitely like, yeah, we don't know if we can have him around, but Lyra's at least like, maybe she could be coming out like kind of like what Laguna was for the Element 4, where it's like, you don't seem too far gone to be like, yeah, we can't have you around. You're not that bad. Kind of like Milani, we already got. Like, she doesn't seem evil. She just seems like she's on an opposing side. Nasei's definitely like between that area, but like he's between where Milani is and like, yeah, I don't know about this. Like, sure is where I would say like, yeah, he's a little bit too far gone. Like, sure is already a little bit too far out there. But the weird part that we got from Rebecca in this chapter is Rebecca is what I would initially guess a dream, but whenever Mishima does like a dream or a flashback, and a lot of other series do it as well, is like the paneling is bordered black, like the page is black with the panels in it, and Mishima is one of the people that is regular to do that. But instead we get these kind of grayish looking panels, and outside of like when we get like different color panels, like if it's like, oh yeah, referring to like, oh yeah, that time I said something with a character where it's more of like a POV change and it's showing like a scene, maybe not like a full scale flashback, but like a momentary like, oh, during this happening and what was going on. But this is more of Rebecca seemingly having a vision of like of the future, at least accidentally traveling to a point in the future that is going to give her some crucial information here, because we have Noah and Shiki. Shiki's much taller, he looks a bit older, so is Noah. Noah's got like much longer hair. We don't get any information really on the state of how things are at this point in time and in this timeline, other than their Rebecca is in a coma and she can't use Cat Leaper because she lost her legs. There was some emphasis from Lyra about saying how like nice Rebecca's legs were, and then obviously like her at the end not having it. The only thing I'd be really curious about is, like, if she lost her legs, would she not be able to figure out a way to do it? Like, because Jin does it without his limbs. Are Jin's limbs different? Are they made of a special material? Is he, like, a really rare case of somebody who can do it with artificial limbs? Maybe it's just not common. And Jin is just, like, he's really skilled at ether gear utilization, and he's able to use it through these prosthetic limbs. You could do something like that, because otherwise, like, why is Rebecca hindered in not being able to use her ether gear? I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm hoping just whatever the reason for that is explained within the next chapter or so. Because it otherwise, I feel like if there's no reason as to either of these specifics, so why Rebecca can't use it with artificial limbs, or why Jin can use them with artificial limbs, like it leads to potential plot hole. But I feel like Mishima's got like a plan for this. I don't think that he planned to have this as a plot point without having at least some idea as to what's wrong with Rebecca, what's special about Jin that they're able to really deal with these scenarios differently than each other. But we're going to seemingly get some information on why she came to this point in time, maybe on what is going on with Nero's empire, maybe what's going to happen like up and coming. Maybe she'll find out some information on how to deal with All Link or Shura. Like, there's definitely some juicy plot details coming up that we'll get soon. Like, just like having them in like a future timeline of like seeing Shiki and Noah aged is interesting, but I'm way more interested on like how is this gonna happen, because like weird time stuff it's not as like crazy out of nowhere when we know Rebecca's powers. It's okay, well, why what is the reason for it? It's interesting that it's brought up, but I really want to know as to, okay, well, why are we here? What's the plan? What kind of bit of information are we about to get from this scenario and from these guys? Like, what are they gonna get that not only is interesting but also affects what's going on right now in the whole battle with Nero? Because it actually would be a really good counter to Nero's ability to like seemingly get like the future or told like what to do by his dice. If Rebecca's able to get information from the future to counteract that, that'll be really cool, actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, before the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But than that, I appreciate it. I'm sorry, subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Bye.